Hi, everybody. Right. The topic that I would like to share with you today is how to develop the research problem. It is a continuation from the part one, which is on the choosing the research topic, right? So second part is where we're going to focus on the research problem, right? When it comes to research problem, if you are just a fresh, right? You have no idea what the research problem is, right? Yeah, it is always good to always find out on the Google, right? Just type in the research problem or the example. From there, you get the idea. What does it mean by the research problem, right? So the what is a problem is we know that it has to be something negative, something which is limitations, something which has issues in it, right? So depending on the topic that you choose, you are going to do the research on the problem related to the topic, right? Okay, let's say you Google and type and look for the what the research problem is, right? So basically, there are a number of the articles you can see on the website where they trying to explain what is the research problem, right? How you should write the research problem with the example, right? So basically, research problem is where we identify the issues, concern, controversy. Basically, you are looking at the all the negative statement, right, which is related to your research topic, right? So making sure that it is related to your research topic so that it will not be go out of the topic, right? So based on the research problem only, you will able to develop the research framework, right? And then research design, and based on that, you able to uh, come up with the result which solve the research problem. So basically, research problem is where it is a specific gap in knowledge, difficulty, contradictions, or the question that you aim to answer through the research, right? So it is a negative statement, right? It's an issue, it's a problem, right? You can look at the practical problem as well as the theoretical problem as well, right? So basically, theoretical research problems are where it is related to the phenomenon or context that has not been closely studied, or it can be a contradiction between the two or more perspectives, or it can be a situation or relationship that is not well understood. One variable, relationship between the one variable and another variable, or it can be a kind of issue that has not been resolved yet, right? So it is based on the this kind of this kind of area is where we are talking about theoretical research problem, right? Okay, shall we look at this example of theory of research problem, right? The example of theoretical research problem will be where the effect of long-term vitamin D deficiency on cardiovascular health are not well understood, right? It is not well understood. It has yet to be closely studied, right? And then historian of Scottish nationalism disagree about that. So from here you can see this is where research problems are which is not well understood, right? Which has yet to be closely studied. And there are researchers that a group of the researchers are they do not agree with the current solutions, right? So basically is where this is about the theoretical research problem, right, regarding to the phenomenal context or contradiction between the one variable and another variable, right? On the other hand, you can also highlight it's also good to highlight the research problem related to the practicality as well, right? So it means that issue with the performance or efficiency in organizations, right? In terms of organization performance or in terms of industry, right? What is the actual problem that it is happening, right? Or it can be in terms of the product process that they are using is where it is inefficient, right? Or maybe the current practitioners are where they are highlighting that these are the issues that we should look into it, right? It can be where depending on the age group or maybe gender group, they have faced the different type of problem. So it is about the practical research problem, right? Shall we look at the example of the practical research problem? uh, Voter turnout in Region X has been decreasing in contrast to the rest of the country. So practically what they find out is where the voter in the particular regions, the number of turnouts are decreasing compared to the rest of the country. This is a practical research that they find out, right? Another practical research problem would be where Department A of the company B has the staff turnover rate, affecting the productivity and team cohesion. So this is the actual result, that actual experience, that what they find out is where due to the staff turnover rate is very high, as a result it affect to the productivity rate, right? And lastly is where non-profit organization face the funding gap, that means that some of its programs will have to be cut, right? So basically these are the practical research problem, right? So the most important is where you have to ensure that your research problem, it has to be negative statement, right? It has to be issues, contradictions, argument, and solved, right? So from there you can clearly identify your research problem, right? So basically, if you look at my previous if you look at my previous video, which is focused on the research topic, it is a continuation on the how to derive the research problem, right? So by referring to the video, the first video, which my topic was the topic what we discussed on the social media. So in this case, how do we derive from the research problem, right? So in this case, by looking at the number of the articles, research article journals, right, where you find out that where, in social media induce the more stress. But on the other hand, the other researcher believe that social media will somehow prevent from loneliness, right? Conclusive findings are very limited. Future research should explore the purpose of the social media usage, right? Many study, and you also have to look at the theory as well. It's also important because it is a theoretical research problem, right? You look at the theories. What are the current theories that existing researchers are using and refer to it? So you can look back and revise back the theory and how you can use it in your research, right? So in this case is where technology acceptance model, right? Did not examine. Many study they use the technology acceptance model, but they do not examine the actual usage and exclude the attitude to examine the actual usage behavior. So in this case is where this is one of the limitation that it find out from the current strategies, even though they have used the technology acceptance model, but they do not examine the actual usage, right? Beside that, right, the current studies that look into the theory of plant behavior, right, they also highlighted that, right, this particular theory has been, there is a gap between the intention and behavior. So it is good to look into it, right? So you can, it can be your part of your theoretical research problem, right? And a practical research problem will be where the popularity of social media among teenagers has grown exponentially. But however, there is a little research to understand the effect, right? And social media has a positive effect as well as a negative effect on young people, right? And practically they find out, right? And besides that, using social media associated with the increased emotion and loneliness among the young people participants compared to the elderly, right? Or compared to the other older adults, right? Adults. And besides that, using social media experience the feeling of loneliness, it depends on the countries as well. So these are the some of the practical research problems that it has been, it has been found out, right? So from here you can see this is where how this research problem relate to the theoretical and to the practical that you able to identify and come out with as a research problem, right? So based on what we discussed on the research problem, you can roughly come up with this 4 area, right? Firstly is where purpose of social media usage. So basically based on research problem is where they do not, the existing researchers are where, they are not sure what are the reason why they use the social medias, right? By finding out what are the reason why they use the social medias, by deriving them to the do the right path, right? They will use the social media in the correct way, right? So in this case is where, John 2021 has been encouraged the future researcher to look into it, right? Secondly is where consequences of social media, right? So it means that is where, depending on the situations and age group, right? Social media has a beneficial as well as a negative effect on the young people, right? This is the second research problem that being able to identify. The third one is the consequences of the using the social media, right? So some of the age group is where they have found out that social media really been help them to reduce the loneliness. But however, some age group have been highlighted that no, social media even make them too lonely, right? So basically, depending on the age group, there are different results have been different results has been provided. So it is good to look at it, how this different age group have, why they have the different consequences, right? And lastly is where consequences of social media differ based on the countries as well. Right? In some countries where they feel that using social media is make them lonely, but some countries is the experience is a totally opposite way, right? So by identifying the research problem in this four area, it'll be easier for you to find easier for you to come up with the research framework later. So in this case, basically, you have a variable called what are the factors that will make the people to use the social media, and what are the consequences of using the social media. So as a consequences, there will be you can also look into in terms of group, whether age groups, in terms of the different age group, is there any differences, right? In terms of consequences of social media, depending on the countries, whether the consequences of social media usage will be different, right? So basically, that is how you can able to summarize the four research area. Later on, you will able to research further, right? How you're going to develop the framework, right?